Welcome back to Crime Podcastle, and you know what that means, right? It's time for another Unsolved Mystery, episode 45 for those keeping track. And today, we're going to be, we're diving deep into a case that's, I think it's safe to say it's captivated the public's imagination for years. The death of Pooja Tiwari.
Yes, definitely captivated. It really has. And you know what strikes me most about this whole case? The sheer determination of Pooja's family. They've never given up hope, not for a second.
Mhm.
They truly believe her death was no accident, and they are fighting tooth and nail to get the case reopened. That unwavering commitment, man, it's heartbreaking. But you know what else it is? Inspiring. Deeply inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Their story is like the driving force behind this whole deep dive we're doing.
Oh.
And we will talk about their efforts later on for sure. But first, let's set the scene, right? Paint a picture for everyone. So Pooja, she was known for her kindness, super driven, had this bright future, and then, bam, April 15th, 2009, she's found dead. Fell from the terrace of her apartment building. So was it like a horrible accident? Did she take her own life? Or was there something more, something darker going on?
Right.
That's the mystery we're going to unpack. You with me?
I'm with you, 100%. I am.
Okay.
So the obvious first thought, most people probably thought, oh, tragic accident, right? The terrace, no guardrails. Not exactly the safest place to be, especially late at night. But I've got to say, the more we dig into this, the more that theory kind of falls apart.
Does, doesn't it? So many things that just don't add up. Like, okay, last time anyone saw Pooja alive, she was at a friend's place, right?
Mm.
Having a good time, seemed happy, relaxed, left around 10:20 to go home. And then, well, that's when everything went wrong.
That gap, that's what gets me. That time between her leaving the party and, well, being found. What happened during those hours?
I'll tell you, the autopsy report, it gives us some clues. But honestly, it raises way more questions than it answers. For one thing, the injuries. Yeah, they line up with a fall. Makes sense. But there were bruises on her arms, like signs of a struggle maybe? And get this, no drugs, no alcohol, nada. See, this is what I'm talking about. Things just get weirder the more you look at them. And here's another one for you. Ready? Her stuff, her purse, her phone, keys, everything. It was all inside her apartment.
Hmm.
So if she just, slipped and fell from the terrace, wouldn't she have had those things with her?
Yeah.
Doesn't really track, does it?
Nope, doesn't at all. Doesn't fit with the whole spontaneous accident thing. So we got to look at other options, right? And that takes us to what the police were considering. Suicide, or maybe someone did this to her. Foul play.
Okay, so let's break those down one by one. Starting with suicide, was there anything in Pooja's life, anything, that suggested she might have been suicidal?
Everyone who knew her, her friends, family, they all swore up and down she wasn't suicidal. Described her as happy, ambitious, full of life, plus no note. And her belongings were all inside, like we said. So, yeah, suicide, it's possible, but it'd be pretty unusual given all that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to fit, does it? So then we get to the really unsettling possibility. Someone hurt her. Did the police find any evidence that pointed to someone, wanting to harm Pooja?
All right, buckle up, because this is where things take a bit of a dark turn. Pooja had recently been in contact with an ex-boyfriend. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ex-boyfriend. Classic suspect, right? But hear me out. This guy, he had a bit of a reputation. Erratic behavior, let's just say.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What exactly do we mean by erratic behavior? Fill me in.
Well, the specifics, those haven't been made public, unfortunately, but think about it. What kind of behavior would earn a label like that? Was he stalking her, sending her threatening messages? Was their relationship, I don't know, volatile, possessive, maybe? These are all things the investigators have been digging into.
Oh, man. This is getting good, isn't it? We got a young woman, mysterious death, an ex with a shady past, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. And that, my friends, is where we'll pick things up in the next segment. Stick around. We'll be right back after a quick break to unravel more layers of this crazy case.
It is, isn't it? Definitely getting complicated. But here's the thing. This ex-boyfriend, the one with the erratic behavior, well, he had an alibi for the night Pooja died.
Hold up, wait a minute. So this guy, history of being, let's just say, not great, but he can prove he was somewhere else when she died. Come on. So does that mean he's off the hook? Completely ruled out?
Not so fast. An alibi, it doesn't automatically equal innocence. It just means, okay, he wasn't physically there at the exact moment, right? But it doesn't rule out that he could have been involved somehow. Maybe he hired someone or planned something in advance. There are ways.
True. It's easy to get fixated on that classic whodunit, right? Forget that sometimes it's a lot more intricate than that. But still, if they didn't have any hard evidence tying him to the scene, it must have been tough for the investigators, right, to really go after him.
Oh, absolutely. And to make matters worse, there's another big piece missing from this whole puzzle. CCTV footage. The building, it had no security cameras. Zilch. So we have no idea who came or went that night. No visual record at all.
Man, that's got to be a nightmare for any investigation.
Yeah.
Think about it. If they had footage, even just of the entrance, the hallway, maybe the terrace itself, it could have given them so much. Pooja's movements that night maybe even caught someone going into or out of her apartment?
Exactly. But nope, nothing. No CCTV. Creates this huge blind spot. So all they had to go on were witness statements, circumstantial stuff, and well, that's not exactly the most reliable, is it?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If things might have gone differently. If there had been even one camera, just one. But okay, focusing on what they did have, what about forensics? Did anything at the scene or from the autopsy definitively point towards foul play? Anything conclusive?
That's where it gets tricky. Remember the bruises on Pooja's arms, the ones we talked about earlier? Could be from a struggle, yeah, but they could also be from the fall itself. And without any other clear signs of a fight, like defensive wounds or signs of forced entry, it's tough to say for sure.
So we're left with these hints, these suggestions that maybe someone hurt her. We have the suspect, the ex, who's got a past, but not enough to actually connect him to what happened. No wonder this case went cold. I can't imagine what Pooja's family's going through. All this uncertainty, no closure.
It's just awful to lose someone so suddenly under such strange circumstances and then nothing. Case goes cold. It's bad enough to lose someone, but then to have all these unanswered questions on top of it just adds another layer of pain.
And speaking of unanswered questions, you mentioned Pooja's family. They haven't been quiet about this, have they? They believe it wasn't an accident. Tell me more about what they've been doing, their fight to get justice for Pooja.
They haven't stopped. Not for a minute. They've organized protests, rallies, you name it. They've gone to the authorities, pleaded with them. They even hired private investigators. They're convinced there's more to this story than anyone knows, and they won't rest until they get to the truth.
That's incredible. Really shows the depth of their love for Pooja, their absolute belief that someone out there knows what happened. Their dedication, it's inspiring, truly.
It really is. And their efforts have touched a lot of people. It's gone beyond just their immediate circle. Pooja's case, it's become this symbol, shows how complex these unsolved cases are, how important it is to find closure, even when it seems impossible.
It's a stark reminder that these aren't just stories, right? The kind we talk about on podcasts or read about in the news. These are real people, real families whose lives have been shattered. And in Pooja's case, the lack of answers, it just makes it all the more unbearable, doesn't it? With all that ambiguity surrounding her death.
Absolutely. And it makes you think bigger, What can be done so these cases don't go cold? How can we improve the way investigations are done? How evidence is collected? How can we get the public more aware? Also that each victim, each family, they get the justice they deserve.
Big questions for sure, important ones. But for now, let's come back to Pooja's case. If you were starting fresh on this investigation, where would you even begin? Where would you look for new leads?
I'll be honest, it's a tough one. It's been so long, memories fade, evidence gets lost or degraded, witnesses are harder to find. But if I had to start somewhere, I'd go back to the beginning. Look at all the evidence they already have, but with a fresh perspective.
Fresh perspective? What exactly does that mean? Looking for something specific or just, I don't know, seeing it with new eyes?
A bit of both, honestly. Think about it. Technology, it's come a long way since 2009. DNA analysis, way more sophisticated. Forensic tools, light years ahead of where they were. And who knows what kind of digital footprints, online interactions maybe they missed back then.
So you're thinking maybe there's something in the evidence they already have, something they couldn't analyze properly back then. But now, with the new tech, maybe it'll tell them something new.
Bingo! Like maybe they found a tiny bit of DNA at the scene, but back then it was too small to get a good reading. Now, maybe it gives them a name, a new lead. Or what about those digital communications we talked about? Pooja and her ex, were they texting, emailing? Could be a treasure trove of information there, stuff they didn't even think to look at back then.
That's wild. Imagine a tiny speck of evidence, something they thought was useless before, and now it blows the whole case wide open. Crazy to think about.
Happens more than you'd think, and that's why it's so important to never dismiss anything. Doesn't matter how small it seems, how irrelevant. Sometimes those tiny details, they hold the biggest secrets. You just never know.
But what about the people involved? Wouldn't you want to talk to everyone again? Everyone close to Pooja? Maybe someone remembers something new, something they didn't think was important before. Or maybe their perspective has changed after all these years.
Oh, absolutely. Memories, they're tricky things. And time has a way of shifting how we see the past. Maybe someone was scared to talk before, but now they're ready. Or maybe they remember something small, a detail that suddenly makes sense in a new light. You never know.
Like in those crime shows, right, where someone says something offhand and boom, the whole investigation goes in a totally different direction.
Mm.
But what about the why of it all? Why would someone want to hurt Pooja? Any theories on that?
Ah, the million-dollar question, isn't it? If it wasn't suicide, if someone did this to her, we got to figure out the motive. Was it a crime of passion, jealousy? Was there something Pooja had that someone else wanted? Or maybe she got caught up in something dangerous without even realizing it. So many possibilities.
So many possibilities, but without a clear motive, it's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Hard to see the full picture.
Exactly. And that's what makes these unsolved cases so fascinating, so frustrating. They make you think critically, consider every angle, and sometimes you just have to accept that there may not be clear answers. There's that uncertainty that's just part of it.
And in Pooja's case, that uncertainty is even stronger, right? With the lack of hard evidence, the questions about the ex-boyfriend, did he do it, or is he just an easy target because of his past? It's hard to say for sure.
Really is. But one thing's for certain. The authorities, they need to take another look at this case, use all the new tools and techniques they have now, leave no stone unturned.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm.
And maybe, just maybe, by talking about this case, but putting it back in the spotlight, someone out there, someone with a piece of the puzzle, maybe they'll finally come forward.
That's what we're hoping for. Because in the end, what Pooja's family and friends deserve, what we all deserve, is the truth. Even if it hurts, even if it doesn't lead to an arrest, knowing what happened, it can bring closure. And that's what allows everyone to finally start healing.
And that's a powerful thought, isn't it? The pursuit of truth, the fight for justice, it should never end. But speaking of searching for answers, what could actually be done to get this investigation moving again? What would a fresh look at Pooja's case actually involve?
Well, there are a few key areas where a new investigation could really dig in, make a difference.
Okay, so where would you start? What are those key areas?
Well, first things first, you got to put together a team, a dedicated task force, experienced detectives, forensic specialists, the best of the best. But the key is they got to come in fresh, No preconceived notions, just the facts.
Yeah, fresh perspective, it can make all the difference. Especially in a case like this, right? Where maybe the first investigation, well, maybe they didn't have the tech or they missed something. Who knows?
Exactly. And think about it, DNA technology now, it's incredible.
Mm.
So I'd say go back, re-examine all that physical evidence they collected, even the tiniest trace of DNA, something they couldn't analyze back then. Who knows what it could tell them now?
It's amazing, isn't it? How many cold cases have been cracked wide open because of that? Just a tiny piece of evidence, retested, and boom, case solved.
It's true. And that's why you got to use every tool you got. But it's not just about the physical stuff. Remember those digital footprints we were talking about? Pooja's online activity? That could be huge.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So you'd be looking at her emails, social media, that kind of thing. What could that tell you? I mean, realistically.
Could be a goldmine, honestly. Was her ex sending her threatening messages? Was she doing any Google searches, looking up stuff that, might suggest she was scared or in danger? Did she tell anyone online about problems she was having? A good digital investigation that could answer a lot of these questions.
It really shows how much things have changed. Back in 2009, I bet they didn't even think about looking at someone's online stuff. Now, it's standard procedure.
Oh yeah, completely different world now. But don't forget about the public either. People forget how powerful they can be. Put out a new call for information, highlight the fact that there's new tech, new ways to analyze evidence. Maybe someone will come forward, someone who didn't think they knew anything important, or maybe they were too afraid to talk before.
It's true. Sometimes it's that one little detail, something someone remembers, that changes everything. Could be the missing piece of the puzzle, and they don't even realize it.
Exactly. And if we can get people talking about Pooja's case again, remind them that her story matters, well, you never know what could happen. Maybe someone's memory gets jogged, or they finally feel safe enough to speak up. Could be the breakthrough the investigators need.
It's like it shows you that hope never dies, right? That belief that justice can still be served, even when it seems like all hope is lost. Pretty powerful stuff.
And for Pooja's family, that hope, that's what keeps them going. They deserve answers, and they deserve to see someone held accountable for what happened to her.
Well, we may not have solved Pooja Tiwari's case today, but I think we've shown just how complicated, how heartbreaking this whole thing is. We've looked at the evidence, the theories, all those unanswered questions. And those questions, they're still out there, still haunting everyone who knew and loved Pooja.
If there's one thing I hope listeners take away from this, it's this. Never underestimate the power of speaking up. If you have any information about Pooja's case, anything at all, even if you think it's not important, tell someone. You might have the missing piece, the one that brings everything into focus and finally brings some peace to those who've been searching for answers for so long.
That's a really important message, and we couldn't agree more. So please, if this case has touched you, share it, talk about it, keep that conversation going. You never know who might be listening, who might have that one piece of information that changes everything. And if you're interested in hearing more stories like this, more deep dives into unsolved mysteries, well, make sure you subscribe to Crime Podcastle so you don't miss an episode.
Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, never stop searching for the truth. See you next time.